kitty kitty cat 미묘함에 숨긴 vibe 귀엽다고 하면 kid right 집 세울지 몰라 Shush baby with your chitty chatty mouth Watch yourself for this queen for the night kinda itty bitty brat 미안해 안 봐줄래
Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield. I'm a professional dancer, professional dance choreographer, and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States. And we're going to be taking a look at Kiss of Life's Kitty Cat, which is Julie's solo, the dance practice. So I do know a couple of things. Firstly, she has a mic in her hand. I don't know if it's live or not. We're going to find out pretty soon. Second thing is, this is one member out of 4 that we're going to look at as well. So I'm going to assume that it's just the member with dancers of the sort. So a lot of my feedback may be tailored more towards how the dancers are framing your feature, things like that, if there's props, things of the like. And I'm definitely excited to take a look at this because it is a mini marathon that I've been doing of Kiss of Life that has been happening while I do a typical larger marathon of a group that I've never really looked at before. Either it's K-pop, J-pop, whatever type of pop group. Seeing them over the years, seeing how they've grown, what are some chronic dance isms that they do and how do they flourish as they are older, wiser, and more seasoned. I think it's a great way to look at it. But looking at groups like Kiss of Life has been really fun for me because it's nice to see how groups start out and getting to see them grow in real time. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a watch.
Everybody say ooh, everybody say yeah. 여기저기 say my name. So cross the line like this. Someone call me weak. 내가 옆에 없지만 천을 Someone call me free. 미움받고 나 won't Someone set the beat. You know I'll be the baddest in this town, but 하루 정도는 예쁜 밖에 원해. 다쳐깨진 손톱 you know that. 헝클린 머리숱 뭐 I don't care. 어떤 꼴을 하더라도 왕만 맞춰.
I like her tone a lot.
Tell you all about me. All I know is me and I. 너를 안으려다가 할퀴어 상처를 줘 난 도와줘 오지 말아줘 그게 미웠어 미안하니 나도 kitty kitty cat 미묘함에 숨긴 vibe 귀엽다고 하면 kid right 집 세울지 몰라 Shush baby with your chitty chatty mouth Watch yourself for this queen for the night kinda itty bitty brat 미안해 안 봐줄래 대충 날리는 my kiss 내겐 돌겠지 몰라 Shush baby with your chitty chatty mouth Watch yourself for
It's interesting some of these angle choices that are happening near the lower half.
All I know is me and I 죽어라고 달아나 다시는 나를 닮은 night 불켜줄까지 말해줘 그게 미웠어 미안하니
Oh.
kitty kitty cat 미묘함에 숨긴 vibe 귀엽다고 하면 kid right 집 세울지 몰라
Girl, she is in platforms.
We just go, we just ride, we just go, we just vibe, we just go, we just ride, we just go, we just vibe, we just go, we just ride.
I do appreciate the safety shorts for her outfit for sure. It probably makes her feel more comfortable to actually like go for some of her movements. Now that's very interesting. I mean, I know that bench is double-sided. She has immense confidence, or her projection is very confidence heavy, which helps for concepts like this. I don't know how she is in real life. She's a very, very strong presence and personality as somebody who's a performer. Whenever you're doing a concept like this, like honestly, some of it was giving a little bit. I'm not doing this as a comparison. I'm doing this as something as like, this is not a new concept, right? We all know this. So notable people that we can cite, I would say CL is a great example from 21, but now she's an independent artist. But also Jennie as well from Blackpink. I think that at least in the early eras of Jennie is kind of the energy this gives me. And that's actually, I mean, when it comes to concept for me, my big note for this is I do know that for this individual, I know she's very much an adult, so she's able to kind of make this choice herself. Now, if she was like in high school, kind of teetering and doing this type of teasing, I would refine my feedback a little bit differently. But overall though, like the kind of vibes that this gives off, I mean, it's pretty bad A, you know. I feel like there is a music video to this, so I'll probably be able to like see what a lot of her wordplay is a lot more there, but here they don't really have it, so we're only going off of the movement, but I'm going off of whatever is translated English wise. So in the beginning, I do like the conversational start of this where you have, you know, 4 people framed to the outside. It does feel like they were all, you know, able to just kind of do their own thing. Very individualized is kind of what it gives me. My note, I would say in general, what would really help this read very clearly, because it does read well, but notice that some of them are like, huh, I can't hear you. Like they look like they genuinely are wanting to hear you. But some of them, I would say my dancers that are on stage left, that's not stage left, and stage right are left. These dancers here, they really give off that, I'm sorry, what? Because having your face showcase more a petty approach versus a genuine approach, they do read differently. And based on context of how she's performing, that helps me think that I'm assuming this is kind of what we want to come across as. So on this side, that would be my recommendation, is you want everybody to showcase performance-wise how you want the intention to come across. And your feature is a really great way to distinguish that. You can go off of her tone, how she's carrying herself, but I also know it's tricky to do with fast turnaround times and trying to figure out if you never really have a chance to kind of analyze that, it can be tricky. So I totally get that. Yeah, don't cross a line like this. So notice there's like a little shoulder action there. Instead of line like this, it's more isolated, but having it a little bit, what are we talking about? Like it's definitely one of those try me, which kind of reinstates and validates the kind of performances that you would see from those that I noted earlier. I like the switch right there. That's really nice. My recommendation would be very clear if we glued the feet together. Not so much that it would be restrictive, but more it would actually help promote more clarity, or how we're choosing to accent that leg as we extend it out, I think would be my note in general for that there. And also notice that some of them are really moving the legs over and some have neutralized. So that would be my little note. If you just want to strive to have a really clean look with your group, once again, based on this, I don't quite know if they're going for, we want to have a huge individualized vibe, because some groups it's very easy to tell that. But in this case, I don't quite know, but I do know that at least with the legs, you would kind of want everybody's legs to be facing a general direction, just so it's nice and clean at the bottom, so you can have more individualized choices at the top, because that's a big thing. Whenever you have your dynamics nice and clean together, whenever you have textures kind of shift or presence slightly different with people, it can feel a little bit easier to justify that. Especially with groups like ATEEZ is a brilliant example of that. Especially in the more recent work, you're able, specifically, honestly, I can kind of clock Deja Vu Gorilla era, you're really able to see that come forth where they are very clean with each other, but you do still see those individualized moments within their features and within how they showcase themselves as a group. So that's a really good group to look at if you haven't already. But starting at that era, if you wanted to know my specific point. Kicking it over to the other side, which is really nice. Now that part there, I think just having some clarity when we start to when we clock in, when we come back out. I like the wordplay, and I like the fact that she does it with one hand, but our dancers, you know, it goes back to if all of them were very clear with the intention, it would help create more liberties for your feature, for her to modify and do what she needs to do. But because on this side, it's not quite as clear as what we're seeing on the left side, that would be something to strive for whenever they perform this. Pushing it down, like they're all having they're having a conversation, they're vibing it out. I'm a fan of tattoos. I'm all inked up myself, so having tattoos, seeing them represented is always enjoyable to see. They're like, oh, I'm bored, or they're turned off. So they're doing a good job kind of performing and showcasing different directions of viewing. So really what would help is if only your feature was looking forward, unless it was very intentional that everybody was looking forward. I do know she is having a little moment there. which does help. I do like her personality. It's fun. They're like, hey, what are you doing? And then they're starting to slowly cause a scene next to her, which I like it. It actually is a really great way to organically build out energy, and it gives them a reason to jump off of the bench, which I like. Dropping down, that was a little tease with the drop, with the power usage of the hips. I don't think everybody dropped though. Let me actually look here. Oh, I totally missed it. Let me see. So they push away. Da, 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 da. So I actually like the choice where they had the inside dancers drop really low and then the outside dancers kind of go midline. So they drop, but not like, I call it, it's the grand versus the demi. So in ballet, there's something called a demi, and which is like a half bend, and then a grand is a full bend or a large bend. So you would see demi plie is like a baby plie, grand plie is like a big plie, kind of like that. So if you've ever taken ballet, that should have triggered your bar work memory immensely, because that's the first thing you do at the bar. You gotta get your plies right. But this is I mean, what's nice though is that I like seeing that we have Laura like a demi represented here, so it represents a different level, versus they represented a completely different level and they dropped it down, had that moment. She's representing a different level entirely because she's still on the bench. Going back here, they're there, and then pulling it in. Notice that one of them is using the hip to drag it, and the other one is not. So you notice that with the outside dancers, as they're coming in, they also chose to drag. For me, what this is, if I were to guess this, it feels like we're supposed to have the same kind of dynamic that I've talked about, dynamic of pulling in. So in order to really make that come to life, you would want to look at the hip here. So notice with her hip is more toward the outside, versus I would notice if you kind of turn it to the inside, you're allowed to have that you can have a little moment with the body roll there if you so chose. Now I feel like some of them are choosing to opt for that. For me, it feels like she may be dropping her shoulder just a little bit here, so it feels a little bit more closed off in the body. That's like a preference thing. It just doesn't make it as clear of the intention of what your posture's supposed to be when you don't think through that shoulder. And I know that for her, she's adding a little arm there. I think, that's fine as long as this lower half's kind of represented, and if that's supposed to show a sense of individuality, I think that's fine. But that would be my note, is to be mindful of where those hips are, because that's going to really help us understand that dynamic of bringing it in. Now this was nice, and it looked like my dancers, as they were standing up, it looked like they were making their arms a fixed point. So a fixed point is whenever you have a position in space, just in dance, like I'm talking about in a street style, like popping context. A fixed point is when you hear mimes use it too. And everything else is allowed to move except for that fixed point. So it's fixed in a position in space. So your depth can change. So like this doesn't move at all, even though it is technically moving, but it's to help counterbalance or counteract whatever you're doing. So in this case, it felt like we were in this position and they used the position they had of the arms to slowly come up, is what it gave appearance wise. That can help in terms of cleanliness and establishing where you want their arms to be. Now my other dancers in the bottom, they're doing a good job pulling it in, and everybody's neutralizing here. Once again though, I think this is just an overall note that I'll go ahead and say here. I may bring it up a couple more times, but notice that there are a lot of liberties that the dancers are taking in prepping and setting up for certain movements. Can this work? A lot of times, yes. But in some cases, maybe I would advise to just be more mindful of it, because if your goal is to allow your feature a moment and you're supposed to help frame the moment, sometimes part of the framing is making sure that you get in and get out within your transitions as cleanly as possible to allow that feature as much of as much wiggle room as possible to have their own creative liberties. And the more you frame, the more cleaner that look and that contrast is going to look. So that would just be my note, is notice she really does have her arms out in her prep. I don't know what she's about to do. Oh, it does feel like we're here. She used her elbows to prep it. Now it's a little different than what her other counterparts did, which is fine, but range is when I would bring this up. With range is how you get from point A to point B, not just the A and the B. A is here, B is here. She started A, she added something in before she went to B. No one else did. That's going to affect her timing, and it's not going to make her look as clean as those around her. So that's what range is. Hitting it through. diving it down with the head. I like the dig, doon, 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 doon. So a nice little groove. It is tricky to do on a bench and it's tricky to do seated. So it's actually really nice to see. She's carrying herself very well here. Yep, and da su da da. Little cat daddy action, really nice to see. And then da na na na, like that's really cute. Like I like the wordplay. Now is she trying to be cute or is she trying to be teasy? For me, my gut's telling me this is more of like a double meaning to a certain degree. Whenever you have a feline brought into the picture and you have this type of concept, it's kind of safe to say that, but I can't confirm until I see the music video or whatever visual they have in mind with English subtitles. So we're here. Now this part is where I was very intrigued. So it appears, here's what it appears, and here's what I'm going to assume what may be the case. It does feel like we're playing with depth a little bit because when you see this here, you notice that she's angling up and out, like behind her, as well as her. She's also doing that too. But then you have two of them that are hitting more to the side. Now, if you want to go off of trying to get a particular angle across, if you're wanting to make it like cat paws, not like paws, but like that kind of feline with the claws, that's it rhymes, then I would say more of the sideways position would be good. But if they're going with more to the back, then I would still like kind of break the wrist, but you don't break the wrist, but you bend the wrist in that particular position to create that imagery. And you want all of the parts of the hand to be the same. You just want whatever your mirror is. So this dancer is mirrored to this dancer and this one's mirrored to this dancer. And a mirror is, if I put a mirror right here, they would be mirroring each other. Does that make sense? She doesn't get a mirror. She's a feature. 1-point feature, the beauty of having an even number backup dancers with a 1-point feature. You get an odd number, symmetry, mwah, love it. But notice that it doesn't feel very symmetrical in the hands. So that's would be my overall note that I would say there for that moment. Moving on from here. Yep, and how they accent it in, dun 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 dun. And because they accent it to the inside, I think my question would be what? I think they're keeping it flat. So some of them are twisting it, and then some of them are keeping it as it is and they're locking it up. So that would actually be something to clarify with the choreographer, how they want to rotate the dancers, because it's subtle, but if you want it to be really clean in that accent, because we hear where it's going and they're doing a good job of accenting the right sound, but if you want to make that frame seamless and crispy clean, that would be something to clarify. Yeah. That's my note, because when some are twisting in, they're accenting on the side and some are accenting at the top of the hand. So now she goes around. Now this part right here is where we feel like we're teasing a little bit. And I will say with the safety shorts, because you notice how short her shorts are, the safety shorts do allow her more freedom to be more expressive with her intention without showing anything. Does that make sense? So that's why I do appreciate safety shorts in concepts in general, and so, but having the groove, once again, they're doing the little cat daddy variant like we've already seen earlier. That da 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 da. I like that how they pick up the hands, but then right here we're doing the same thing. Because this is a repeated choreo, I still can't pinpoint. Okay. Yeah, so they're all accenting with the hand, but notice how they all reset slightly different. Was that a choreographic choice? Potentially. I just find it interesting. I'm just not used to seeing it. I like how she walks forward, and I like how they step over the bench to drop, and I like how they get up to drop. A really nice way to transition without having anybody go up and out unnecessarily. Your mirrors allow to transition in symmetry as well, which makes it feel more visually pleasing. Hitting it through. Also, my note is some of them are choosing to chug that leg, some are choosing to just hop it. That would be a clarification on energy. For me, the one that looks, it does feel like most people, honestly, the mirrors here are choosing to hop. These mirrors are choosing to kick. That's just a clarifying thing. Normally when everyone does the same thing, or if you're doing unison, whether it's mirrored or not, or you're doing something in sync, for the most part, that would be something energy-wise that you would look at, because in this place, I am fully aware she's probably not going to be doing a ton because of her platform shoes. Those are very difficult to walk in. I call those a brat stall shoe. Those are the shoes that I wish I owned, but I was like in 4th grade, and where was I going to wear those to? You know, now that I'm older, I still don't know what I would wear those to, but those are freaking sick. Like, I would really like to own a pair of those just to have. Like, those are so cool. I'm kicking it through. Yeah, my gut tells me I think we needed to have that kick in there. So my back too, that would be something I would have given them a note on. To refine, hitting it through. And notice her subtlety and movement. When they're dancing more full, she's dancing more subtle, which causes her to stay as your natural feature. And I say this a couple of times, and I really note it, especially when I do like a full episode reaction on like a TV show or something. I do talk about this. Or whenever I'm marathoning a group, like what we're doing here. Just because you're in the center and you have a microphone and you're singing doesn't mean that we're going to naturally want to look at you. I would say it just happened with Street Dance China. I just finished wrapping up filming for that. And there was a particular dancer who was in the finals, and she was able to do her own choreography, and she had a lot of dancers there with her, and the dance was great and it was fun to watch. But one of my notes that I gave during that full episode reaction was it didn't feel like she was able to be naturally featured, even though the set was about her. She was featured somewhat, but there were other dancers that were kind of outshining her to some degree. I don't know if that was her intention. But whenever you are a one-point feature, or the point of the choreography is to showcase you want to do what you can, and it's not a selfish thing. It's for the integrity of the track that you're trying to integrate. This is her track. So it's important for us to be able to still find her, whether she's wearing the same color or not, which she is. And so she's going off of her performance and her mannerisms to really help us as an audience be able to stay watching her, because the dancers are really nice to watch, but we want to make sure that for the track, who are we supposed to watch? The dancers or her? Because she's there, my natural assumption would be her, unless it's showcasing in a different way where she's hidden away or not in the shot. So that's my, in general, little note there. This groove right here was really nice. Notice that some of them are using the chest, which I would highly recommend for that particular groove. It just looks nicer. Now, this would be a note I would give one of my dancers. I do talk about this pretty often, so that's why I'm just going to bring it up. If this is your first video with me, welcome. But I do talk about this. Notice with this dancer, because I'm going to replay it, she uses her arms for the most part and doesn't quite use her lats in the back. By using your lats, you are allowing to unlock your back a little bit more. Using your lats in ballet especially, it's just a concept that's a pretty tricky, easier said than done. It's just like pressing your shoulder blades down, but having them engaged. It's going to allow more freedom, and you're going to put more leverage onto that back over your arm, and your arms won't get as fatigued. I mean, they'll still get tired, but you'll have more power behind them. And so that would be my note that I would give this dancer specifically. But I mean, she's doing the choreography, but if she wanted to have more power, that would be a recommendation I would give her. Watch. You kind of notice that, and honestly the dancer behind her, I would also extend the same courtesy. But they're doing the choreography, so I don't want to say they're doing it wrong. Just honestly, whenever I watch these, it's not like people are doing things wrong. It's always a refinement thing. How can we take what they're doing and elevate it to the next level to make them feel better about doing it? That's pretty much what I try to do. So I like how she takes her energy, she moves it over, so they set it up. Notice some of them really have a blade and some have it extended out. That does change the look, doesn't it? So notice her hand, and she does have nails, so that does actually accentuate the claw look, and it's more femme, but then here it's more placed and bladed. For me, I would assume that maybe this type of look is going to match with the kitty cat vibe over the blade. The blade feels more militant or more straight, and it can vibe into a different type of style. So that's just my note. So I would clarify that as well. Oh, actually it looks like her hand was just twisted, so that would just be making sure. Probably I was assuming based on the energy of her mirror. I think that would just be something to refine. Moving over. That is really tricky to move this type of formation without looking. That's impressive. Bringing it through, notice some of them shot it all the way over and some just kind of dropped it. That would be a note I would want to clarify too with that. And you would be representing that sound with that absence of the hand. So how would we want to represent it? Those are the kind of things that dancers would take some form of ownership on and responsibility, because she's handling the lyricism and the tone. Now we have two new dancers join the chat. I like whenever we have new dancers join, and it's an even number, because it maintains symmetry, but it creates more fullness, which is really nice. Yeah, I like that. Now we're doing the same type of choreo, but now we have more freedom, and it builds a little bit more because we are not restricted by sitting on the bench or standing on the bench, because the bench only has X amount of seating, you know? So you don't have as much room. That throw, boom. I like the syncopation. Doon, 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 doon. It's fun. It's cute. But it's spicy. It's like a spicy cute. You know what I mean? Now, right here, they could have gone, I think a punny way to say this, feral. It's a difference between animalistic sensuality and flirty, teasy sensuality. There's a difference between those. I do talk about this when I covered XG's pre-debuts. So that's something that I would recommend to you if you wanted to see me talk about this a little bit differently in a different lens. But here, they could have really gone, pretty far with it, and I'm glad they didn't, because this right here, it's kind of reaching a fine line, but they're not overstepping it, like where it makes you concerned to the degree that it could. Does that make sense? Not concerned, I would say. It definitely, trying to find the right verbiage. I think like, this does definitely give cat, because you think cat on all fours, that kind of thing. So it's definitely, it just reads more teasing. It doesn't read, you know, in that way as far, I think is my note. Shooting the leg out, kicking up the leg. My note there would be, let me see here. Now, some of them are choosing to point the feet. Now, looking at the shoe, it is pretty tricky to point the foot. They're doing a pretty good job nonetheless of going for it. So with the leg, like it now going backwards, intention of the head, I appreciate. And I like that she's kind of replicating it as well, but standing instead. I'm very curious about her shoes. I do this sometimes. I take a screenshot and then I'm going to Google reverse search it. I think the last time I did this was with Dreamcatcher. Dami was wearing an outfit at a live in Orlando. I just tell you guys, there's some outfits that are just, I would like them in my life in some way, or just at least know if I could, where to get one. If I ever feel the impulse to buy something, I like to have a shopping list. But having the leg extended out, would I be able to wear these anywhere? No, I don't think so. Especially for what I do in my day-to-day. I don't think I could healthily wear these without spraining my ankle if I did any of my line of work, teaching a class. But I do think those are really fun. And if you can tailor them, or you can figure out a way to wear them, like on a night out, let's play bingo. Not bingo, I'm just kidding. But you get my drift. I have to be very strategic in how I choose to wear them. Diving through, I like the fans. That was really nice to see. They switch it over, like the claps. Because you hear the clap in the music, they're able to build up the energy. She walks through. She steps over. Now this right here is very interesting. I think this is the most, not questionable, the most like, oh, okay, you're really helping carry the double context of the type of song you're bringing, because she chose to go head to chest first instead of just sitting on it. She chose to go in this direction, so it gave a very particular look. And then notice here, my note for my dancers would just be clarify the hands. Notice not everybody's quite doing the same thing, but everybody is picking up the same leg, which is definitely nice to see on this side. Look how clean. Definitely an A+ on this side for sure. It's just that upper body, if it could be refined a little bit, it could be really helpful. Then we sit it here. Really nice that we have the wrist. I would say my notes, some of them, I do have it a little bit loose, just like out with the fingers. That would be my notes, to make sure we want to be very clear what kind of broken wrist position we want to make, especially if it's a focal point choreo. Because remember, when you have people do K-pop covers, you want to provide as much clarity as possible. So the more in sync of a group they are, the easier it is for a cover artist to be set up for success, if you think of it that way. Because a cover artist has to visually learn it. And so if there's 6-7 different perspectives to go off of, it can be pretty tricky to kind of puzzle piece your own perspective together and then feel like you did a good job. So I resonate with that, especially when I cover any group at all. Another example, because I recently did this, it was ATEEZ. ATEEZ, in their earlier works, they were very different as movers, which was fine because we got to see so much growth from them. But it was really difficult. I had to kind of puzzle piece my way of which member did which move the most effective for the type of track it is. And I kind of had to build my own ATEEZ member movement quality wise, if that makes sense. And that's how I was able to do Pirate King. Kind of, I mean, like to as much success as I could at the time, So That's my note. And those little details can make somebody who may not have as much confidence in being able to decipher what the in general movement is. It could make them kind of, especially if they're a perfectionist, it can make them be like, oh no, I don't know if it's here or here, and make them start to question. So that's an in general note too. And that's why I care, I think, a lot about synchronicity in K-pop groups specifically, a lot more, because I understand the culture of people who cover these groups. I want to help make people not feel so bad if they're like, I wish I could figure out how to do this, but it feels like they're all doing something different and I don't know who to look for. I like being able to give a reference point at least. But her energy is really nice. Zoom in's really great here. And then her getting to kind of do her own thing. And then she does the same thing that she does on the top of the bench. But down here, notice she was kind of clocking the bench. I think part of herself was thinking, I need to make sure I don't fall over, is what that looked like. Honestly, the type of shoes she has, it looks like they're Naked Wolf brand. Only reason why I'm thinking that is because I own 2 pairs of their platform sneaker version. But not these, because they're boots. And I don't really own boots. See, that's why I want to Google reverse search it. We'll see if I find out one day. But in general, I mean, I didn't mind this. I think vibe-wise, based on her tone, the type of concept she went with does work. For me, it always goes back to, and I do see this vibe right here. We do have a music video we get to watch, and I'll do a mini marathon at the end. But that's just my in general note whenever you do this type of concept. There are people that are going to naturally compare this to other people that have done the concept. But I like the fact that based on her tone, she has really great tonality for sure. And it makes a lot of her choices make sense, and the type of context that she gave her dancers also makes sense too. So in general, I think this was pretty cool. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to see more Kiss of Life group dance analysis, not only do I have the solos, but I have them as a group. You can head over to Patreon and take a look at that if they're not all released here on YouTube. How I work with the mini marathon is if they have 5 or more, which a lot of the cases that is the case. Normally per comeback that a group like Kiss of Life has, I release 1 older reaction and a potential just take if Patreon votes for me to take on a choreography from the group. And so yeah, if that's something that you don't want to wait for, that's what Patreon is there for. It's a beautiful hub to binge away at some of your favorite groups, as well as TV shows, full episode reactions, as well as other dance content that may not have made its way to YouTube due to copyright. So, but if you're okay with just seeing what YouTube has to offer and diving into the discussions on either side, I'm there for both, and I'm always excited for it. Thank you guys once again for watching, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye!